Climb well, and good luck on your journey. To preserve beauty and protect all life.
Cosmic here, and welcome back to another Legends of Runeterra video. Today we get to talk about Taric, the very first Mount Targon champion spoiled. And I'm super excited for it because he supports the archetype that, you know, the cards we saw yesterday, so kind of go figure. But we also get his entire gem package, which is obviously nice for him, but I think does a little bit more beyond that. So I also am really happy Riot actually gave me a shout out on Reddit. So for those that don't know, I did all the spoiler cards for set 1 that got up on Reddit. People seem to like them. I started to do them again, and then they just dropped this beautiful piece. Now, unfortunately, the English version didn't have the high-res template saved up, so that's why I wish we could get a little bit more pixels here. But it's, you know, it's nice to have these all in one place where we can just talk to them. So I'm assuming that they're going to do this going forward. So if we get reveals that don't have a card, you know, I'll put them together for both the official Discord and Reddit and all that stuff. Or if they just do this going forward, that's fine. This looks a million times better than I could ever ask for. And again, it's just, no matter what, it's nice to have this just all in one place to look at the spoilers for the day. So with that, let's actually get into it, right? So we have Taric over here. He's a 4-cost, 2/4, which, you know, the initial gut impression here is that the 4 HP really isn't a lot. It's going to be tough to get him to survive for multiple turns, at least when you want to be attacking. And that's where the ability comes into play. So he has support, naturally, as we'd expect. He will gain tough, so will what he's supporting, and then you copy the last spell that was cast on him to the supported ally who's also going to get it. So immediately you can think of things like Ghost to give them both elusive. You know, obviously his champion spell, which is down here, you can give them both +3/+3. So then you're turning in an attack to get +6/+6 of stats. And keep in mind, whenever it says grant, that is a permanent buff. So now you're able to get 2 things +3/+3, and that can be very strong depending on whatever spell you're copying. Now, also keep in mind that that value is going to just depend on what region combinations you take. You know, we haven't really seen a lot of the other cards from Targon that might really go with this. Obviously, +3/+3 is fine, but there might be something that's maybe a little bit better costed that'll work out. We're very early on in the spoiler season, so we're going to have to wait and see. But this is very strong. Obviously, this is going to be able to pull off some really crazy things. And, you know, just to get the meme out of the way, right? Everybody's talking about Playful Trickster. So the way it would work is you go to attack, the Playful Trickster will copy, and then Taric will just keep bouncing in and out of combat. While if you have like an elusive unit, everything will just be able to attack for free over and over and over. What's also really nice is the leveled up version, right? So kind of that same thing, but now they just can't die. So you can really start to see in the leveled up version where you can then create a, you know, infinite looping attack that also cannot be disrupted by normal means. Now, obviously, if there's still like an obliterate effect, there's ways around this, right? Or a detain. It's not unbeatable by any means. It's very easy to disrupt, in fact, or just Will of Ionia, right? Or even a well-timed stun can break it up. There's a ton of interaction to it, but I really like what this, you know, is trying to enable. Think about Taric as obviously the king support role that he wants to play, and this is very nice. That's very on theme. It's very flavorful. I really do like this. Now, again, I kind of have to wait and see what other stuff that we get in the set to really say how strong or weak this is going to be. I default back to the last set of spoilers where the first champion, Quinn, you know, was arguably the weakest other than like Lee Sin. So maybe they're trying to save the best for last again. But I think this falls into that. It's generically good. It enables a lot of different synergies. And I really am going to wait to see what spell combination is going to be best for this. Again, obviously the Blessing of Targon is strong. I think getting a +6/+6 on the board, you know, and whatever you're copying is going to be good. Obviously, like the thing I want to keep just having as a disclaimer here, you want to be buffing something elusive or overwhelm, right? So you're still able to get in the damage. If they're able to just chump block, you know, whatever you're putting the stats on, it really doesn't matter in a lot of scenarios, right? We've seen time and time again who, for example, She Who Wanders, it's a big 10/10 body, and it's nice as regeneration, but it gets chump blocked to oblivion, and you might lose the game other ways. So there's a lot of moving pieces in this, but overall, I'm pretty confident in saying that Taric will find a home somewhere, and I'm really looking forward to figuring out, you know, where that is. And again, we've seen this spot where it says, I've seen you target or support allies +7 times. So that kind of all falls in line with the cards that we've seen yesterday. So now let's actually talk about Gem and then some of these other cards. So down here in the corner, We have Gem. It's a 1-cost burst. And what's interesting about this, it's burst, but it's not burst. So it's a conditional burst. So can't be cast in combat or response to a spell. So I really like this at first, like that very first line, heal 1 and grant it +1. One of the major downsides to Mount Targon right now is that their units do start a little bit weaker because all their buffs are permanent. So it's something like Calling Strike. A single Calling Strike will just ruin your life when you're trying to set up these turns. So I was like, oh, well, Gem is now your answer to that, right? So you can buff it out of range in some cases. Well, you can't, because if they go to play Calling Strike, you can't respond. However, if they don't have Calling Strike that turn, then yes, Gems do offer up that opportunity where you can buff yourself out of range and make sure that Taric or your Mentor of Stones, what have you, is going to be safe, right? So I really do like the idea of Gems, and this is where it starts to get interesting, right? So it's a burst spell, right? So every time that we think about, who's going to get the most value out of burst, it's going to be Ezreal. And then we have Shards of the Mountain, which is going to fill your hands with gems, so up to 10. And, most Ezreal decks are pretty empty, towards the late game. You've had to, use a lot of your spells to stabilize. This should, in theory, most of the time put, 6 to 8 gems in your hand. And that's 12 to 16 burst speed, spell damage. Now, obviously, yes, they have a cost to them. You might have to, play Shards of the Mountain, then pass, and then wait till the next turn. You might not be able to do that full damage that you want to. But you should be easily able to bank some spell mana and then just combo off with this. Now, of course, we then have to think about this from the balancing aspect, right? So we're removing Ezreal from the other region combinations, right? Like right now, it really is popular to be comboed with Bilgewater because you have Rex as the other burner. You have the multi-targets, right? And Make It Rain. So you're losing out on a lot of value if you just take that out of the equation. So then it comes back to, okay, well, Targon is most likely going to be all of its own, self-buffing and self-targeting mechanics. So do we have to run triple Static Shock again just to make sure that you're leveling up Ezreal in a fashionable time? There's a lot more work that you're going to have to do, right? And plus, Make It Rain at 2 versus Static Shock at 4. Yes, it draws you a card, but it's sometimes that one extra point of damage can matter. There's a lot of pros and cons to it, so we really have to wait to see what else Mount Targon is going to get before I'm on the same train of everyone else. Ezreal's going to be OP busted. So, yeah, I get it. It's burst. It's fun, but we have to wait and see. Again, the other thing that's kind of interesting about this is Lee Sin, right? So the issue with Lee Sin a lot of the times is that you just don't have enough spells and or ways to get multiple spells, back over turn, because you have to have such a large cost in that 7 to get them to flip, and then you still need more spells on top of that. Well, Shards of the Mountain, again, can come in handy for that. So we have, again, very early on, obviously the Bastion spoiler from yesterday can help Lee Sin survive even more things, right? So if you can't die in combat and if you can't die to spells, seems pretty good, but there's a lot more work that we have to do to really perfect that deck. And again, otherwise, going back to just elusives, right? Or something with Overwhelm. Shards of the Mountain, just put it on a very sticky unit, just meaning something that's not easily removed. You're going to have Bastion to save it from a Vengeance or something, or even a Ruination, whatever you need it to save it from. And then you just stack on a bunch of damage and swing for lethal, right? So that's kind of the direction it can go in. So very early on, Shards of the Mountain, it very well could see play, right? I think we have to see a lot more of this set to really understand the role it's going to provide for this region. However, if you're playing, of course, like the Taric deck and you just need ways to target your own allies, seems like a pretty obvious choice, right? It's really a speed, a turbo level enabler for Taric, because we still have to wait to see what other support cards that we're going to be getting or what other, self-targeting effects that are really going to matter to help push Mount Targon, just a little bit more into the viable area. I think these are some really strong cards, but of course, this is only the tip of the iceberg for spoilers, so we got a bit more to go. So other than that, for gems itself, we have the 1-drop Gift Giver. It's a 1/2. When it's summoned, put a gem in your hand. This all comes down in my mind to how many of these gems do we really need? Right, this and Mountain Goat. I really do like Mountain Goat just because it has 3 attack, but we'll have to see what the 1 versus 2 slots look like in the deck. Maybe you run both, right? These are really just meant to be enablers for the archetype, but at some point you'll say, okay, well, these aren't, I don't need all 6 of them, right? 3 of Gift Giver and 3 of Mountain Goat. It's not going to be, too much where we need to focus on just all gems all the time. Maybe it's a 3 Gift Giver and 1 to 2 Mountain Goats or something, right? It's nice that it has that strike effect, but because it has the 1 HP, with Make It Rain most likely still going to be super, popular, it might be pretty difficult to keep it around for multiple turns, so I'm not too excited about this, other than maybe, aggro is a big thing and you need a turn 2-3 attack blocker to block fearsomes and things like that, then you probably don't care, right? So again, this will be more of how the meta shifts. I'm not super crazy about either of them, but I do understand the role that they're providing, again, within the archetype and making sure that you're leveling up Taric. Or again, if we think back to the Arbiter from yesterday, you just need to spam out gems as quick as you can so you can put down a free, 6/6 Overwhelm unit. And we actually brought this up in the TLG Discord, and shout out to Rattling Bones for it. But, we could do a turbo Arbiter deck that then uses like triple Fading Memories. So you could very easily set up a turn where it's, spam support, spam gems early on, turn 6, turn 7, drop your Arbiter. It's going to be a 0-cost 6/6 Overwhelm, target a bunch of times with Fading Memories, drop a field full of, 6/6 with Overwhelms, and just swing out for a massive amount of damage, right? So that's more of like the combo-driven side of things. And then, of course, you target your own allies, right? So things like Glimpse even works, right? Because you want to draw some cards. Maybe they're trying to use removal. You can counter it that way. So there's a lot that they can actually pull off. Now, is it going to be good? Who knows, right? This is very early on again, and we have to test it out. But that might be one of the first decks that I personally try out with the new set. So all that combined, that finally brings us back to Mentor the Stones. And I am so happy that I was right in yesterday's video and just talking about there being like a missing piece to this support archetype, right? If you think about the mountain card that we got yesterday, which said, if my support is a support, they both then units get +2/+2, so it goes down the chain. And Mentor the Stones is just great, right? It comes down at 3, it's in a good spot. And what I really like about this too, again, keeping in mind it's a permanent buff, but if you're buffing like a Braum, you're buffing elusives, you're buffing like an early, even the Iron Ballista for Overwhelm, right? There's a lot of things that you can end up buffing with this where it gets +2/+2. You don't care if it dies, and then it gives you 3 gems into your hand. So this card is nuts. It is like actually just nuts. It's a support enabler. It's a gem self-targeting enabler. It's a Taric enabler. It's a Arbiter enabler, right? Like all those combined into a single card that does it all. I really could not stress enough how hyped I am for this. Again, obviously the disclaimer being it has 1 HP. It's very easy to die, but right, if you're going to buff Braum with it, you probably have an Elixir of Iron. We all know how strong Elixir of Iron is at countering that early game removal, so the fact that it can just keep giving +2/+2 turn after turn and then still give you 3 gems on top of that, this card's going to do something. Again, I don't know if it's elusives. I don't know if it's Braum. I don't know if it's cheap Overwhelm. I don't know if it's just, again, buffing the whole Taric package, as it were. This card slaps. I'm a huge fan of it. I'm not going to say it's like 10 out of 10 most OP card or anything like that. But in terms of the cards that we've seen so far, this is hands down the one I am most excited for. So again, I really like that. Yes, we can think about in the context of Taric. Obviously, it synergizes very well. It plays towards his level up mechanic, which going back to yesterday's videos, right? That's also, their sub theme or their support archetype, or support is now an official archetype, right? And Mentor of Stones just goes beyond that. So we really have to look at these spoilers at what they're doing for their own region and kind of how they all combine and work well to get one another. But then also outside of that with other regions. Again, I think Mentor of the Stones, it's going to be a day one craft for me, straight up. I'm, not that it's gonna be hard to have resources, right? Because the game's going even more free to play friendly, but Mentor of the Stone absolutely slaps. I definitely am looking forward to, between now and the set release, trying to figure out what is the best 4-drop I can play with it, what's the best Overwhelm, what's the best elusive, and really just start to go down, that line with it, right? Like just even giving a Lifeblade +2/+2, right? Like get us more lifesteal back, and trying to outrace our opponents that way. There's so much that this card can do that I'm just really excited to see where it ends up. So with that, that is our first look at Mount Targon with Taric. What did you think about the champion? Do you like it? Are you a fan of the support archetype? Or are you just someone who's looking forward to some of the other champions that we have? Which again, tomorrow should be a non-champion spoiler, and then hopefully the next day will be a champion spoiler once again. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. And with that, if you can, please make sure to subscribe for future Legends of Runeterra content. That helps me out a ton since I've been doing content for so long. Really do appreciate the support. And of course, drop a like if you enjoyed this video. So with that, stay safe, my friends, drink your water, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.